So basically, the biggest thing that I'm keeping an eye on here is there's a couple positives and negatives, right? So the big thing here is your FTX collapse drop. That so far price is staying in the lower range of that drop. As long as price stays in that lower range, it creates what's called a bear flag, or in spirit of bear flag. And as the name suggests, it is overall bearish. So in general, I'm kind of in the camp that we're probably headed a little bit lower. I have some levels down here around 13,000, give or take a little bit, that I think eventually will break through. The big spot is going to be the low here, right? The FTX collapse low around 15,700. If we take that out, that's where the next leg lower probably kicks in. On the positive side, so always like to kind of talk about a little bit of a positive here. I think we are towards the end of the Bitcoin bear market, meaning that in the next 6 months, I'm anticipating a bottom. The reason I say that is there's some signals coming up here. Like if you look at the Terra Luna collapse, Bitcoin lost 45% of its value. With FTX, which was arguably a much bigger collapse for the crypto markets, Bitcoin only lost 25%. So you see this kind of ability for Bitcoin to almost shrug off a little bit of the negativity there. And I think that's usually a sign that we're getting closer to the bottom. All right. Sorry about that spam call. So the only other thing I would say here on the charts that I'm kind of keeping an eye on is that on the bullish side, let's say we don't break down, what would be a trigger for me to maybe start getting bullish? And that trigger would be if price could trade above the FTX collapse. Just on a psychological basis, that high right now is really powerful because it represented this major catastrophe within the crypto markets. So if price were able to get above that, I think that's where you'd have to say, okay, wait, maybe we do have a bottom already. Until that happens, I'm kind of on the sidelines. So first off, I think it seems like he's getting a slap on the wrist because the law works slowly, but I think it's important for us to recognize, like, you go back to past fraud cases like Bernie Madoff, which was like massive billions and billions of dollars, much like this, frankly. The prosecutors, their job isn't to like put up little updates on Twitter like, we all want, right? They're to build this hardcore case that when they go in front of a judge, it's going to be like a slam dunk conviction. And I don't think they want to necessarily let out of the bag a lot of the little inside things that can be detrimental in the court of law, because they don't want to give his lawyers an opportunity to necessarily figure out how to rebut it too. So honestly, I think he's going to be going away for 10 to 20 years at minimum. I think it'll turn out to be a pretty hefty situation. I think the only possibility or only positive could be for him is that it's seeming like there's a lot of money still there. It's just, he put it in like real estate. He put it here. So the possibility maybe investors get a good chunk of it back would be the positive of it. But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to use this as a big example, like to send a shockwave through the crypto markets. Like, if you're going to do this, you're going to get punished just the same as if you're doing fraud in the stock market or anywhere else. Nibbled a little bit, I'll be honest. Yeah, I did. And again, it's a very kind of keen risk reward thought process, meaning that, when you go into something like this, you don't put a lot of money involved, but there's a lot of potential reward. So buying it down in this range, to me, it's like, okay, I'm going to only put 1% of my portfolio in it. If it goes to zero, I lose 1%. If it survives, and ultimately, if it survives, it probably thrives. This could be an easy 10x, 20x, 30x scenario over the next couple of years. So I think, it's one of those things where you have to really just think about how much you're willing to lose and then take that shot if you're okay with it. I think overall, there's a reason why I moved to Florida, to avoid that state income tax that you're getting nailed with, and still pay a hefty chunk, but I'll take it. In regards to this, I'm not sure if I know if it's what the deal is with it. I'll pass it to the other guest.
But do you think, like, for the is this a reasonable amount compared to the United States?
26%.
Yeah,
it sounds pretty good, but again, how much, right? So we have tax brackets here in the US, right? I mean, if you make 50,000 a year, you're paying way less than 26%. It's just a matter of, if you make millions of dollars, you're paying, 37.5, federal, and then sometimes state tax on top of it. So it's, and I always say this, people always, when they're bitching about paying taxes, is like, if you have to pay a lot of taxes, it means you at least made a lot of money, right? So, I mean, there's always a positive way to look at it. Maybe it's too much, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
to take a little while. I think there's a lot of damage done in the crypto markets. The biggest thing, again, is going to be clarity through regulation, which will draw big money back in. I think it's going to take a few years, maybe into 2026, 2027. But I think the next bull market run will be, and let me show my chart here, because I And again, this is going to make it really tough to predict, but wherever, see this trend line here, wherever that is when price goes up there, maybe that's the target. So right now, I mean, right here, it's at 70 something thousand, but in 3 years, heck, this could be at 100, 150,000. I think that'll makes sense if you connect that trend line, that could be where things are headed.
Ooh.
Me on Twitter at Gareth Soloway, or check out verifiedinvestingcrypto.com. And just remember, in bear markets, everyone try to learn a little bit. The more you learn, the less
10 minutes a day. 10 minutes.
That's all it takes. It's like 7-minute abs or whatever it is. I mean, everyone got a 6-pack from that, right? So anyways, learn a little bit, because then you won't get caught off guard in the next bear market.